Hi guys, welcome to the screencast on the cardiovascular system. What we're going to be looking at today is the structure, function and nervous control of the heart. Okay, so before we actually start with the cardiovascular system, we just need to understand what it's referred to other than the cardiovascular system. So it's also known as a circulatory system, and it consists of the heart, the blood vessels and the blood. So when we're discussing the cardiovascular system, it's very important to know that essentially we're talking about the delivery of oxygen and the removal of waste products such as carbon dioxide, as that is the role of the blood within the cardiovascular system. Okay, and then we're going to need to know a bit about the blood vessels and as well obviously the heart. So here's the setup that we're going to be answering the questions asked of us. Please ensure you know that properly, because that is really important. That is going to be a difference between some of you getting 10 marks or 8 marks on 8 marker with regards to getting 4. Right, okay, so structure of the heart. I want you just to briefly label just the ones that are circled. Okay, you don't need to worry about the others, but the ones that are circled, I wouldn't mind you just giving that giving those a name for me, please. So if you just pause this and we'll go through that now. So they are the terms that you need. Now, if you do not kind of understand these terms or know the function of these terms, it's really important you do, okay, especially the tricuspid valve, bicuspid valve, the atria and the ventricles as well. It's important you know what their role is. Pulmonary artery as well, and also pulmonary vein. They're important. I want you to understand what they actually do, okay? So, moving on, describe the functions of the cardiovascular system. Now, if you know that, there's 5 of them. If you know that, give that a go and answer that question for me now. So it's worth 5 marks, let's say. However, if you don't, we're going to give you the memory method right now. So cardiovascular system, you've got to understand, hopefully you've heard of the terms cardiovascular disease. So cardiovascular diseases of things such as atherosclerosis. Basically, they are kind of blockages within the blood vessels that may lead to heart attack and strokes. So they are cardiovascular diseases. So describe the functions of the cardiovascular system. Hopefully, you're going to try and think cardiovascular disease. If we have a disease or if we're ill, where are we going to go? We're going to go to the doctors. Okay, so the memory method we're going to remember is DOCT. It's a double C, so DOCCT. Now, from here, let's see if you kind of given any hints as to what they are and give that question and answer. If not, we'll go through it together now. So the D is disease. Okay, so it protects the body against disease and infection. That's really important to understand in regards to the cardiovascular system, because it's what keeps us healthy essentially. You've also got the O. Now, hopefully I said earlier on about the fact that cardiovascular system is made up of the blood vessels and the heart. What does the blood do? Transport something. Yes, it transports oxygen. So the O is oxygen. So function of the cardiovascular system, it circulates oxygen and nutrients around the body. The C, carbon dioxide, so it removes waste product for us. The other C is blood clotting. Okay, so white blood cells form solid clots. You've got platelets. Platelets cause a platelet plug, and it stops the blood from continually dispersing out of us, let's say. And the T finally is temperature. Now, this is controlled via thermoregulation. Thermoregulation, you need to know the terms vasodilation and vasoconstriction. So they are the functions of the cardiovascular system. Now, you may get a question that just talks about thermoregulation, and that's what we're going to be discussing in a minute. However, you may get a question on blood clotting mechanism. Now, we're not going to go through that, so please use your revision guides that I've given you to help you answer a question on or help you understand blood clotting, because that is important that you know that in more detail than just clotting blood. Right, okay, so describe how thermoregulation operates internal temperature rises. What this is actually asking is, how does our body control our temperature? When we start to exercise, our temperature, our core body temperature increases. We don't like that, so we need to be able to control it. So what happens when we become too hot? Well, how does our body cope with that? Well, this is how. First of all, vasodilation of the blood vessels under the skin increase the diameter. So basically, our blood vessels vasodilate, they widen. This increases the blood flow under the surface of the skin, and heat is lost through the skin via radiation. So let's say we start to warm up and we get quite hot. What happens is our blood vessels vasodilate, they go to the surface of the skin. This essentially allows the heat to be lost easier through radiation from the skin. what else happens? We start to sweat, don't we? So this sweat evaporates from the skin and has a cooling effect on the whole body. So if you're asked a question with regards to how do we regulate temperature, they're asking about thermoregulation. They're asking for you to talk about vasodilation, vasoconstriction. So in regards to heat, we talk about vasodilation. That is how we cool down. Now the next question that I want you to do on your own is describe how thermoregulation operates if internal temperature falls. So what happens if we get cold? So pause this and give that a go for me. Right, okay, so what happens is our blood vessels vasoconstrict. So vasoconstriction of the blood vessels under the skin decrease in diameter. So this again, our blood vessels vasoconstrict, they narrow. Okay, so the blood is not going, warm blood is not going to the surface of the skin. So very little heat is lost through radiation because our blood vessels aren't close to the skin, so the heat can't radiate from our skin. And then blood is redirected away from the surface of the skin to our core, i.e. to our vital organs. It's a survival mechanism. We're trying to stay warm, we're trying to survive. So if you think about it, our blood vessels, they vasoconstrict, they narrow. This decreases the blood flow, warm blood flow under the surface of the skin, so little heat is lost. And it actually draws the blood to our vital organs to try and keep us warm through our core. So that is how thermoregulation operates if internal temperature falls. If you need to research that more, use your revision guide, use the Moodle page with the with the PowerPoints on, etc., just to help you out with that. Describe the structure and function of arteries, veins and capillaries. One structure, two functions. We've got a memory method for this. If you remember this memory method, you should be able to remember both arteries and veins. Capillaries, you're just going to have to remember, and there's not too much to remember with regards to capillaries. So one structure, two functions. So let's start with arteries. We spell arteries with a capital A and a capital T. Okay, so arteries equal, the capital A equals away, and the T equals thick walls. Okay, so one of the functions of the arteries is it carries blood away from the heart. The structure is it has thick elastic walls. Add elastic to that. Now what you have to think of is, okay, we need another function. The other function is it carries blood at high pressure. Okay, so it's important that you get that down. It carries blood at high pressure. So there's two functions, one structure. If you have that with regards to arteries, veins is a complete opposite. Okay, so veins do the opposite to the arteries. So it carries blood to the heart, and it has thin walls, and it carries blood at low pressure. So that's what your answer would be for that. And then capillaries, give that a go on your own. So just pause it and give that a go. So these are your answers. Okay, structural arteries, thick elastic walls. Function, carries oxygenated blood away from the heart, except for the pulmonary artery. It carries blood. Pulmonary artery carries blood away to the lungs. Functional, blood carried at high pressure. Veins, structure, thin inelastic walls, opposite. Function, carries deoxygenated blood to the heart, opposite. Carries blood at low pressure, opposite. Capillaries, the structure, thin walls, one cell thick. They need to be one cell thick because this is where gaseous exchange takes place. If it's any thicker than one cell thick, the gases are really going to struggle to get through. So we're going to struggle to get oxygen to the working muscles and carbon dioxide out of the working muscles into the blood stream. So that makes sense to me, to be honest. I think that's pretty straightforward. Now, describe the nervous control of the heart. Before I start with this, you've got to understand that we have a heartbeat because of neural impulses sent, electrical impulses sent via the brain, from the brain, via kind of nerves to the heart, and that stimulates a heartbeat. So the nervous control of the heart, if you ever get asked a question on nervous control of the heart or nervous control of the cardiac cycle, it wants you to mention 4 key parts. See if you can answer those for me, fill in the blanks, see if you can answer that question. Okay, so pause it. If you can't answer the question, can you answer the question from this now? So we had the sino-arterial node. Now you can put it in your exams SA node. You do not need to put sino-arterial node. So SA node. We've got the AV node. Again, you only have to put the AV node. The bundle of His and the Purkinje fibres to finish with. They are the 4 main parts of the nervous control of the heart. So can you describe the nervous control of the heart using those 4 key terms? See if you can give a bit more information in regards to each part there. Now, we'll go on to it in more detail. So nervous control of the cardiac cycle of the heart. It all starts with the SA node. This is the SA node. Okay, so where is it located? It's located in the right atrial wall. What does it do? It sends an impulse to the atrial walls. So it sends an impulse to the left atrial walls here, left atrium, and sends an impulse to the right atrial walls here. And it causes them to contract. That's what it does. Okay, it's known as a human pacemaker. It then sends a message to the AV node. The AV node delays the impulse so that the blood from the atria can continue to can finish going through to the ventricle. If it didn't delay the impulse, what would happen is an impulse would go here to here to here, and then we'd get a contraction. There'd be no blood in here, and we'd have a heart attack, or not enough blood would be sent to the working muscle. So SA node sends a message to the AV node, which delays the impulse by 0.1 seconds, so the blood can finish emptying the atria. Sends a message down the bundle of His that is located in the septum of the heart, which is this muscular wall here. Divides into two, left and right, to the Purkinje fibres, and the Purkinje fibres, what they do is they send the impulse, or make the impulse contract the ventricle walls to force blood out of the heart. Out of the heart to the lungs, this one, out of the heart to the body, this one. It's as simple as that. So if you just want to kind of like make notes on this, you may make notes: SA node, arrow down; AV node, arrow down; bundle of His, arrow down; Purkinje fibres, and you just need to know that little bit of information about it with regards to that. Now that, in my opinion, is not too difficult to understand. I realise it's terminology you don't usually use, but SA node, AV node, bundle of His, Purkinje fibres, that's the route it takes. That is the nervous control of the cardiac cycle. That is what they want you to talk about with regards to nervous control of the cardiac cycle. One thing it's important to know is, we know that when we start to exercise, our heart rate speeds up. And we know that happens because chemoreceptors detect an increase in carbon dioxide, which makes our heart rate speed up. Sends a message to the brain, our heart rate speeds up. You need to be aware that it's the sympathetic nervous system. So there it goes. It's a sympathetic nervous system that speeds up our heart rate, and it's a parasympathetic nervous system that slows our heart rate down. So think sympathetic S speed. Okay, sympathetic nervous system speeds up our heart rate. So the sympathetic nervous system may be stimulated. This means that the SA node is going to fire an impulse at a faster, greater rate, which means we're going to have more beats per minute. The parasympathetic nervous system slows down our heart rate. So after exercise, when our heart rate slowly starts to slow down, that's because the parasympathetic nervous system has been stimulated. Parasympathetic nervous system has been stimulated, sends a message to the SA node. SA node starts an electrical impulse, sends it to the atrial walls, and so on. It just does it at a slower rate. So what I want you to do now is answer this question for me. Explain the role of the atrioventricular node in the nervous control of the heart when exercising. 3 marks you get for this. So first of all, you get a mark for saying what the AV node actually does, which hopefully you should all know after making your notes on the previous slide. Where does the actual impulse come from? And then where does it send an impulse? There's your 3 marks right there. So give that a go for me and pause this. So the AV node receives stimulation from the SA node. The AV node slows down the impulse to allow complete contraction of the atria. The AV node sends a message down the bundle of His to the Purkinje fibres, allows for ventricular contraction, or allows for the ventricles to contract. It's as simple as that. That's a really easy 3 marks if you just understand what the question's asking, i.e. it's talking about the AV node. You have to remember that process we've just gone through. This was a question in the January exam. Sorry, it's a bit unclear. Describe how nervous control of the cardiac cycle decreases Freddie's heart rate when the training swim has finished. It's worth 5 marks. How are we going to answer it? Nervous control of the cardiac cycle. We know straight away we need to mention the SA node, the AV node, the bundle of His, and the Purkinje fibres. We know that needs to get mentioned. Also, it's talking about describe how nervous control of the cardiac cycle decreases Freddie's heart rate. Well, the parasympathetic nervous system decreases heart rate, so we need to talk about the parasympathetic nervous system within that as well. Okay, so give that a go for me, 5 marks. Okay, and I want you to show me that answer so I can hopefully understand that you understand it, and secondly, if you don't, I can help you out with it. Okay, 2 more questions before we finish I want you to answer. I'll state the function of the pulmonary artery and state the function of the tricuspid valve. If you can do that for me, show me your answers. Brilliant. Thank you. Bye.